YouTube, Clay Hughes here. Welcome to part 3 of our fan restoration video. Reassembly portion of this. Don't think this is going to be too bad. Hope not. First things first, we're using this 20 SAE non-detergent 3-in-1 oil, specifically for small engine motors, which conveniently you see there's a fan logo on the back. This has been what's recommended all over the internet by fan people, so I'm gonna just kind of follow suit. All right, next thing we have is we have brand new Wick, 1/4 inch in this case for this fan. I'm going to do some free advertising because there aren't too many fan supply places out there online. Bought this via eBay, but you can also go to their website. So we'll see how well this works. I'm not sponsoring them just yet, but I was pleased I was able to find this stuff online. Power cord I got off of eBay, and you know, kind of I went with the vintage look, old school, flat molded, non-polarized kind of plug. I did decide to replace the switch, the old one, just I think for safety reasons. This one, a little modern Chinese switch, I'm not terribly happy about on quality wise, but the appearance and the safety I think will. I disassembled and cleaned out the gearbox. There's a lot of old gummed up grease in here, so I'm pleased that this cleaned up really well. We're gonna put some fresh grease into it. All the painted components came out really well. I used the appliance epoxy by Rust-Oleum. I just did the outside of this. That's just some dark primer in there just to cover the metal so it won't rust or anything. But the appliance epoxy came out pretty well. Same thing here. Same thing. Dark gray primer on the underside just to keep it from rusting up. This portion is the original finish. I did not paint this. This actually was in really good shape. This is the only thing still in really good shape on the fan itself. The badge itself, or the data plate, whatever you want to call it, has kind of got some flaking off, so I sprayed it with some clear coat just to hopefully preserve that for a little bit longer, but I don't know if there was anything I could do to try to restore that or not. And then all the little hardware bits have been cleaned up. Most of them I've painted, also using the appliance epoxy, so everything will have a nice fresh black gloss finish to it. The little there are only 3 brass pieces in this whole fan, but I went ahead and cleaned them up with some Brasso and got them all nice and shiny. The rotor cleaned up pretty well. Okay, the first thing I think we're going to go ahead and put together is the actual motor. I'm going to use a little bit of this oil and just kind of coat the inside very lightly. Only reason I'm doing that is there's just a little bit of surface rust that's starting to kind of show, and you know, I don't want to put this whole thing together and then have it start rusting out on us. I'm going to go ahead and wipe off the excess because nothing attracts dust quite like a layer of oil on something. We just want enough on there to help prevent it from rusting out or causing that stator to give us problems going in. So we're putting this back in the way it came, which is a good thing I take pictures because I had to kind of reference. I had to go back and reference, make sure I was putting this in the right spot. Now this was a very tight fit going in, so that's why I put that oil on there. Alright, there we go. Make sure the holes line up, which they do. Okay, so what I've decided to do is put just a little dab of anti-seize on these threads, just to just for good measure, you know, in case 67 years from now somebody else wants to go take it apart. Alright, so there we go. There are 4 studs holding the stator into the housing. Yeah. Alright, next thing will be the rotor. Make sure all your washers are back where they came from. Alright, so we're going to pre-oil the shaft. I'm going to go ahead and pre-oil the bearing, because we're also going to have to put the felt in here shortly. Alright, so we make sure we get the back part and the back part, and the front part and the front part. It's a good start, right? Now we're going to do the gearbox. And this thing was completely packed full of the old, crusty, corroded, nasty stuff. So completely cleaned it out. Now I'm going to pack it back full of new grease. That should be more than plenty. Okay, now that we have that greased up, you know, not completely packed, but pretty much packed. I'll go ahead and put these in. Same situation. Go ahead and put a little bit of NECs on them just because I can. Okay, now we're going to put this worm gear on here. Okay, now we'll put this on. Now we have our gearbox on. I went ahead and put a little bit of grease on the pivot point and then where the gearbox oscillator actually goes. We're gonna install this real quick. Alright. This anti-seize is making a mess on everything and everywhere, so I don't know if this was a good idea or not, but I don't know. Maybe 67 years from now somebody will appreciate it. I might not do it again though, especially because it's getting on my fabric cord. That's the only thing that's really upsetting about it. Everything else I can deal with. Next we're going to put on this oscillator link, connecting link, whatever it's called. Now I had to make a note to myself that the thin shoulder went to the pivot head, and then the thick shouldered one went to the knob, because both of these screws are not the same. And this will go on here. It doesn't take very much of this anti-seize to just make a huge mess everywhere. I mean, I've used other anti-seizes before, and this first I just had this brand from an automotive project, and I didn't buy it specifically for this. But this aluminum Permatex is going everywhere, so I'm not pleased with this. Okay, there we go. Alright, I'm pleased with the movement of this too. Okay, the next step is going to be installing the wick. And there again, in hindsight, kind of wish I'd have done the wick before I put the oscillator setup on, but live and learn, I guess. I don't know. So also on the Wick, I don't really know the procedure for this. So what I'm going to do is I just kind of stuck it in. Almost acted like a dipstick for me to kind of gauge it, and I'm gonna shorten it just by about 1/8 of an inch to allow for that brass screw. So we have that in there now. Oh yeah. All right, I was debating earlier on pre-oil it before I stick it in, or to stick it in and then oil it, and this just instantly swelled up. So I think I'm comfortable with the you know, putting it in first and then dropping the oil in, because I don't think the odds of getting this thing out, I don't think the odds of getting it in one piece once it's soaked is very good. And actually, I don't think the odds of getting it out right now would be very good either. That thing is pretty saturated, so we're going to go ahead and stick this in. Then we'll do the same thing on the other side. Okay, now that we've installed the wicks in the rear, then I want to go ahead and mount this onto the base, since we can't do anything with the front cover just yet. And we had a spacer, shim, whatever you want to call it, that was on the non-switched side. So that's where we're going to return it to. We got this. I really should skip the NEC's portion of this, but since I'm a glutton for punishment, I'm going to go ahead and continue it. Starting to look like a fan again. Very nice. Okay. I'll shove that in there. Okay, well, maybe we won't, but alright, I'm pleased. That's looking good. Now we'll keep on dropping about a drop at a time, as long as it keeps absorbing it. I think we're ready to put our back cover back on. Oh yeah, because we need to do that. There's your attention to detail lesson for the day, folks. Right, this can't go on yet until after the housing cover is on it. We're starting to look like a fan again. Alright. So now that it looks like starting to look like a fan again, now we're going to go ahead and do the front cover. We'll make sure all your washers are in there, your spacers. We're going to make sure that this little notch is aligned on the bottom. And we're going to we've already pre-oiled the shaft just a little bit. Now, get this thing lined up on there. We're going to put on our nuts. Next up, I'm going to measure and insert our felt. Got this one just a little bit shorter. Because this one needs to have this brass piece inserted. Now we'll do the bottom. Oil the bottom. All right, for this next portion, I don't have a rubber grommet to fit this, unfortunately. I bought a pack of 16 from a guy on eBay that specifically was selling stuff for fan restorations, and you know, it's supposed to be 16 of the most common sizes, and not a one of them fit. So don't have that, but what I'm going to do is, since I have, you know, nice fresh coat of paint on here, it's not a jagged edge, I've got this cloth covered stuff here. I'm going to just go ahead and put an underwriter's knot and call it good. May not be perfect, but you know, if you can't find a grommet, you can't find a grommet, because this steel is very, very thick. Alright, so now we just have to wire it up. Do the same thing with the power cord. Run it in. This fan is going to be pretty straightforward to wire because this is a one-speed fan. So there's really nothing to mess with. You don't have all the different speeds and you know, any kind of special switch or anything. So on this one, all you're going to do is pair two wires together. That's going to be, you know, one leg of the alternating current going straight to the motor, and then the other one is going to be interrupted by this switch, just like that. So it should be a pretty straightforward wiring. Multi-speed fans are going to be a little bit more difficult, but not too bad. So I've decided to go ahead and solder these. I don't know, it may be against my better judgment, but I'm going to go ahead and solder these so I get a really good connection, and you know, that way I know that they're not going to, you know, come apart in any way. Now with that being said, I also left a little bit of extra space in here in case either I mess something up and have to take it back apart again, or if, you know, 30 years from now somebody else needs to go in here and replace a cord, or, you know, hey, it might be me, I don't know. Okay, there's one. A lot of times on soldering, I'll heat it from the bottom, since, you know, hot air rises. Then in theory, it'll help heat the copper a little bit better. Not always, but then plus it's heating it from the bottom, and it helps the solder flow a little bit more freely into the wire itself. Okay, so we threw a little heat shrink tubing on there just to protect it, and then I'm going to wrap it in a layer of electrical tape as well, just to, you know, just for good measure.